see in many ways English as a second language being an excellent tool that I know.
How are they going to access it if they cannot drive to the places they need to be?
Well, DeKalb County has wonderful systems with that, but go ahead.
And Representative, I think as far as the driver's license thing, I remember right now I think this bill is pretty ambiguous about how it affects the driver's licenses. That's why this amendment, and again, it's a different, but I think that I don't think that this bill, this resolution specifically prohibits or specifically allows, it's ambiguous right now. So I think that we don't have quite an answer yet on this bill on the drivers. But on the other thing that you mentioned, and you're talking about women who are trapped in violent relationships.
Not violent, oppressive. There's a difference because violence would be covered by your public safety exception.
Okay.
Oppression is not considered a violation of civil rights under Georgia law currently. So not your husband.
Give me a specific example.
For example, under many Muslim cultures, women are not allowed to have jobs outside and not to say Muslim cultures. Under some practices, under Muslim religious law, women are not allowed to have jobs outside of the home.
Okay.
Therefore, if they are in their homes, they will often not be allowed to have the keys to the house. They will not be allowed to own a car. They will not be allowed to get access to those levers. What this would prohibit, for example, there are refugee organizations that allow these women to come live with them. They take these women in and they help them get access to driver's licenses so they can travel. Under this bill, those refugees who are legally here who can proficiently drive a car, much in the way illiterates can drive a car without necessarily being able to read every single sign, these women who may have the technical proficiency but may not have the literacy to read a sign or to sit for an exam in English would be prohibited from taking a driver's license exam. And I find that to be problematic and having a chilling effect on the attempt by these very worthy organizations to stop the oppression of women.
I think we need to explore more the driver's license issue, because you are right, currently it's ambiguous, although I would argue, and I think Representative Bearden and others seek to amend the section more specifically, and I'll read you the language with your permission, Representative Bearden, on what you're going to offer. There would be no law, ordinance, decree, program, or policy of this state or any of its political subdivisions, including but not limited to the Department of Driver Services Administration or driver's license examinations for all classes of licenses, shall use any language other than English for any documents, regulations, orders, directly what you are concerned about. And over in Alabama, to give an example, which again, my organization, Pro-English, some of its members have sued the Department of Public Safety over in Alabama for a point that's very controversial, probably one of the most controversial aspects of this, and that is the whole overriding factor of public safety. You mentioned our signs, they're obviously all in English in the state of Georgia. Should we, like the state of Alabama and other states, be giving driver's license tests in various foreign languages, including over in Alabama, Farsi, Chinese, Arabic? This would say no. This would say you have to give your driver's license examination in Georgia only in English. And again, to foster the assimilation that is the point of the bill.
And I think Representative Abrams, that's the amendment that he's referring to.
That is the amendment.
The resolution
right.
that we're discussing, I don't think it necessarily does that. I think it would take you to vote. You have to approve both this and also the amendment in order for that driver's license thing to happen.
Well, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, this actually opens a whole new line of questioning for me, so I will hold that until we take a vote on the motion to defer if you'd like.
If we do.
I can continue asking questions, but I can hold off.
I don't mind you going ahead with the questions if you'd like.
I would like. So going to that issue, City of Atlanta, DeKalb County, Fulton County, Gwinnett County, these are all counties that are actively seeking, and in fact, I think today we announced there was a Korean company that was coming to Georgia that was bringing jobs. Under an English-only requirement for access to a driver's license, those CEOs would not be allowed in those counties, and I would take City of Atlanta, DeKalb County, Fulton County out. If you locate in any county that is not accessible by MARTA, you would not be allowed now.
A foreign license is honored here in Georgia all the time. There's no problem.
But we do not, to the extent that these people decide that they are permanently here and choose to assimilate. I suppose actually I would ask the reverse question.
You said CEOs, foreign licenses.
Which is why I'm going to alter my question. do we have any data to support that there's been an increase in driver's license or driver's accidents based on non-English speaking holders as compared to those who have licenses in Georgia compared to those who are proficient English speakers? Do we have a higher incident rate?
The answer over in Alabama.
Not in Alabama and Georgia.
I don't have any in Georgia. If you would like to hear what's going on in
I
neighboring
would,
states.
I would respectfully disagree that Alabama and Georgia are similar situated states.
Okay, but they do have a public safety problem and more accidents are on the rise according to Alabama, but I have nothing
But
for Georgia.
I would, to the extent that you can provide the information and provide data on Alabama's increased access, the number of new immigrants who moved into Alabama, because I would argue respectfully that Alabama and Georgia are very separately situated when it comes to encouraging international relocation.
I would agree with that, because they're different in that respect. I mean, obviously, Georgia has more immigrants, and more refugees, more everything. It's a bigger state, so there's no doubt about that. I still think that the evidence from Alabama is at least somewhat probative. I mean, I don't think it doesn't prove the case, it doesn't disprove the case, but I think it's at least a little bit probative that if you're routinely giving licenses to people who don't speak English, or the accident rate can go up, that doesn't exactly mean that the situations are exactly the same, or that the data would be exactly the same. But it's also, did you know that data is incredibly hard to come by? It's just very, very difficult, especially because the practice is so long-standing. It's pretty hard to get a before and after picture, and that's another reason. So it's the absence of data, I don't think, proves the point.
And I would suggest that with the absence of provision of data,
Yeah.
the threshold issue is one that changes fundamentally the constitution of the state of Georgia. And to the chairman's point, we have a bill, we have a law, this is not a bill, we have a law on the books that supports the proficiency and supports assimilation, which I'm very much a proponent of. I believe the assimilation certainly is necessary, but my concern is the extent to which you prohibit and limit political subdivisions such as the city of Atlanta, such as DeKalb County, which are actively encouraging other nations to send their dollars to the state. The extent to which I would argue that Alabama is not analogous to Georgia in the extent that we are doing our best to encourage that international assimilation, that international relocation, and because we are standing as a location for refugees and for legal immigrants. My concern is that those comparatives are not exactly, as a threshold issue, synonymous.